And welcome back to Restless. My name is Father Joseph Gill, priest of the Diocese of Bridgeport, Connecticut, and you have joined myself and Paul and Lauren as together we young adults restlessly, I can never say that right, restlessly seek the face of Christ in the midst of today's crazy and mixed up world. And you know, one criticism I hear a lot about the church is that the church talks too much about money. And the truth is that we need money to operate. It's we have to turn on the lights and the air conditioning. And now that I'm a pastor of a parish, a parochial administrator of a parish up in Monroe, I'm realizing just how much money does go into a parish. It's a lot of cheddar.
What's the name of your parish?
I'm at St. Jude's in Monroe, Connecticut.
Yeah, I don't think we've covered that yet, Father Joseph.
We have not. Just a couple episodes ago, I was named parochial administrator, which is kind of a trial period before you become a pastor up at this new parish. So I'm no longer at the Basilica of St. John's with Lauren and Paul, but still love you guys.
Oh, and we miss you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Very happy for the people of Monroe, though.
Yeah. I love.
Are we?
I am.
Kidding.
I love Monroe. It's a quiet town. It's kind of an old.
Yeah, I'm happy for you because it seems like it's a good fit for you to be out of the city, right? And more in nature, but
yeah.
You're so good. So.
Well, hopefully people there think so too. I don't know.
Yeah, hopefully.
As pastor, you have to make tough
And you do
tough
post your
decisions.
homilies. Everyone needs to know that.
Yes.
So we can still get your rich wisdom.
If you want to go to the blog, it is thecrossstands.blogspot.com. Thecrossstands.
Okay.
.blogspot, yeah. So check it out for all my homilies. But today, anyway, we're talking about money. We're talking about tithing. First of all, what is tithing? Have you ever heard of tithing before?
Yes.
Yes.
Like before I sent out the email about
Yes,
this episode?
of course.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the famous thing is 10%. 10% of your income, however you want to define that, pre-tax, post-tax, whatever. I think different denominations of Christianity have all different approaches to this, and I've never really heard a concrete answer from any Catholic cleric or important person thereof about what the right number is or how you should think about it. I've gotten some vague advice, but if you ask Mormon, it's 10% gross.
Right. And they make sure of it too.
Yeah.
They'll check your tax records.
Yeah, it's very important. So, and I know some of the more Orthodox Jewish folks too, they're pretty concerned about it too. So it's not Christianity, but it comes from Old Testament is a 10% number.
Right. I mean, God required that in the Old Testament, the 10% of your flock, 10% of your fruit of the fields, and people had to do that.
And it was sacrificed?
Yeah.
Or offered up?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And given to the temple. Mm-hmm.
And is it something like the first amount that you earn is given?
Yes, it should be the first fruits. Yeah, and which is an incredible trust in God, right? Because if you're giving the best lambs you have, you're not sure if you're going to get more lambs. You're not sure if you're going to get more grain. But you do it saying, you know what, God, this is yours. I trust you.
Right, and I think it makes sense for the Old Testament because God was leading the people along, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was constantly showing them that he was there for them. And then they would leave, right? And believe in a false God or whatever. And then he'd come back again.
Yep. Yeah. So it's good for the Old Testament. Is it also something we should do in the New Testament?
Well, I made a joke before we started this episode that, we can eat bacon and in the Old Testament, you're not allowed to eat bacon or pork products. So,
yeah.
So it's maybe this one we were absolved from too, but,
and I responded by saying the 10 Commandments we're not absolved from.
Well, no, Jesus has mentioned the 10 Commandments a couple times.
Yeah. And he kind of raises the bar.
Yeah, that's right.
You've heard it said, do not kill. I say to you, do not be angry.
Right. So, yeah. So, I mean, he doesn't say do not eat pork and do not cure your pork. So anyway.
I didn't know my pork was sick.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
No, so I think it's interesting. But I think that certainly some level of donation is generally appropriate. That's my base level answer.
So some level.
Yeah.
So $5, $10.
Well, it's better than zero.
That is true, yeah.
So if you're not giving anything and you start giving $5 a week, it's more than zero.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah, what do you think that young adults should be doing?
I think we should be striving for tithing. Now we may not be there yet. I wouldn't, like, if you've never given anything to the church, don't necessarily, because you have to make some financial plans to tithe. It might mean cutting back on something else. But I also just don't think all your tithe needs to go to the church. You can also give it to other charities. But I think 10% is a pretty reasonable amount to give back to God for everything he's given us.
Yeah, I think the other key with that is knowing that everything we have comes from God, which I think a lot of us forget, right?
Yeah.
Like all good things. So if you don't have that knowledge or you're not aware of that, then it's going to be much harder, I think, to give it back. Because you are living maybe in kind of fear. I mean, even people I think who are well off, right? They may be planning, I need this money for retirement. I need it for possible medical expenses. I want to go on vacation, right? Like whatever it is they're planning in their year, and it's already assigned, and they've got to hold on to it, or they're not sure what's going to happen. But when you have a strong faith in God and you understand that everything comes from him, I think it's easier to give back.
But that should be something we build into our budget is tithing and charitable giving. So as we are saying, okay, this is for vacation, this is for medical, this is for the church, for the good works of the church.
So do you think the church has a bad rep at this point for like maybe always asking for money, that people are just like,
oh yeah,
I'm so over it. They're always asking.
I mean, do you guys feel that way?
I mean, okay, so there's a difference between the church, right? So I would say like we have our parish, which, most people give to weekly, or a lot of people give to weekly. I do. And then we have like Archbishop's annual appeal, that's because I come from the Archdiocese of Hartford originally. The bishop's annual appeal, depending on where you are.
No, annual Catholic appeal here. But anyway,
as
the
such,
appeal.
The appeal of some sort. And then you might have other programs, like in Diocese of Bridgeport, we have the We Stand with Christ, which is a big program to help fund your local parish, plus a general pot of money for other projects. So it does seem like, so it's pretty controlled here. I would say the things that do get is that once you start giving money, the letters don't stop.
Yes.
Every single Catholic organization, you'll have a letter in the mail with a long letter about how much money they need and how much they don't have it. And so you have to start making decisions. And you also have to vet what you're getting in the mail too.
Yes. Yeah.
I think you're pretty safe giving to your parish and giving to appeals or other diocesan-wide things. That seems like a pretty safe way to make sure that your money's being cared for. Which I think is really important. And I work in the not-for-profit asset management space. That's kind of what I roll into. I don't do that specifically. I'm not an asset manager specifically. I'm an investor, but and so we have to advise a lot of organizations, including many Catholic organizations, on how to properly set up their governance policies so that they can accept donations, not just from a legal structuring, but like making sure. Ensuring donors that when they give money, that it's well cared for, that it's prudently invested, that it's, it's shepherded well. So that's the kind of the things that I look for when I have to make a donation.
Well, that's good that you have the financial insight to be able to examine those things. I think probably most Catholics who don't work in the financial sector don't.
Yeah, you have to be careful because you don't know what organizations are sitting on top of other organizations and what salaries they're pulling. That's not necessary. Sometimes you can circumvent some organizations and get closer to the source where your money's being used for less salaries and more, actual goods. So not that the salaries are necessarily bad. Well, those people have families and stuff too, but it depends on what you want to give for.
Yeah, and that's one thing that always turned me off about Catholic Relief Services is that the CEO makes almost $500,000 a year. And it's supposed to be this money that's going to these poor children in Africa and building wells and things. And when you're drawing $500,000, you're like, well, my donation, where's it going? It's going to this person's pocket,
Yeah, so I think the answer to that would be is that you have to make sure the CEOs of these organizations, there's a return. There could be a return on that, right? Either the organization is functioning better, meaning he's implementing or she's implementing cost savings that are exceeding their salary that wouldn't have been there. Their marketing efforts, their fundraising efforts are greater, so they're bringing in more money. So you always have to look at. You can't just. I would say I would caution anyone to just look at the CEO of any organization, especially not for profit, and just say like that's too much money. I'm not going to give because there's probably a story behind why they're making that and why they're worth that much money. Because remember, these people there are very few of these people out there. They're really special people that can run an organization like that effectively.
Well, that's a very generous interpretation.
It is, but this is what I do for a living. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we look at salaries and compensation and spend
It
rates
is.
and
Yeah,
all that.
500,000 is not unheard of when you look at things like the United Way or.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean,
other
you can
things
go
like that
crazy
where you're
with not-for-profit.
talking
I mean,
about, you know-
one of the best gigs around is being the CEO of a not-for-profit. You can pull down millions a year.
Right. Right.
But 500,000 doesn't strike me as like absurd.
Oh,
I get your point, Father Joseph, and now hearing Paul, I understand what you're saying, that, for a certain level of talent and skill and, ability, you got to be able to pay, right? Or that person's not going to be there. They're going to be somewhere else.
Correct. Or they might be in the for-profit world. They could take those skills and go work for a company and make $3 million a year.
yeah.
They might actually be choosing to take a huge pay cut to come and do the 500,000 a year. So it's all relative.
I suppose. I don't know. For me,
Yeah.
I kind of look at, are you mission driven or are you money driven? Why are you in that position? Are you in that position because it pays so well, or are you in that position because you believe in the mission of what you're doing and are willing to do everything to make sure the mission is accomplished with, so if someone is really passionate about Catholic Relief Services, hopefully you do it for 100,000 a year, which is still a pretty nice salary. And that's not hurting anybody to go down to that.
Right.
Right. Okay. So one more point on that. I think there's people that might be doing it for both, for whatever reason. I don't know why they would, but
Maybe.
they could.
Maybe.
They could be doing it.
We
They
often-
really believe in the organization and they're willing to do it. Like I said, these people generally, for a lot of, especially Catholic organizations, they can go somewhere else and make a lot more money. So
Yeah.
so I would say that make sure that the preponderance of the money, if you're bringing in, hundreds of millions of dollars a year in donations or millions and millions of dollars a year in donations, then you just have to look at the proportions more than the discrete numbers.
I guess in my experience of what I personally have given to, I've only given to charities that I've had personal experience with.
Yep.
And I've only given to charities where I know that the people are in it for the mission and not for the money. So, for example, one of the charities I really like supporting is called Off the Streets. It was founded by a deacon from our diocese up in Danbury. A deacon who was assigned to the parish with me at St. Mary's in Bethel, Deacon Mike Oles. And he founded this great model where basically 100% of the donations go directly to getting people into housing, the homeless. And it pays the security deposit and gives them furniture and gives them a start on food. And it says basically, if you have an income, whether it's disability, Social Security, or you have a job, then you can have an apartment. We'll pay the security, we'll pay everything else, but you need this income where you can continue to pay rent. And since its inception, probably about 2008, I think it was founded, and it's gotten over 200 people off the streets. But Deacon Mike takes no salary. It's a volunteer position, and
phenomenal.
there's nobody that works for salary there. It's just people who are so mission driven. So I know every dollar I give is going directly to getting someone off the streets.
Right. And that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not feasible on a global scale.
I know
I'm sure,
those
but-
those things. Those are really great organizations to give to. And, like for example, like I mentioned before, I'm part of the Crossroads for Christ organization in Connecticut, and that's a 501c3, and so they take donations, and so there's a few people that work for the parent organization, and they're bootstrapped, meaning that they're every dollar that they raise is meaningful for themselves because they quit their jobs and did this full time to try to expand and grow the mission of the organization. And they took pay cuts, and there was a lot of uncertainty about where the next dollar is going to come from to pay the bills. And so so that one is, I think, similarly, you can really see where the money's going toward. But a lot of the donations are going towards salaries and benefits and software programs. But that's kind of what you need. You need people to do that. So
if you do need people.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, what organizations do you support financially?
Well, I mentioned one just now, Crossroads for Christ.
C4C, yeah.
Yes. I've done the various diocesan programs I give to my parish, and then random things here and there.
Okay.
I've given to like the directly to the new, not through Catholic Charities, but directly to the New Covenant Center here in Stamford, which is it's like a soup kitchen and social work center, I guess you call it.
Yeah, that's a very good organization.
Yeah.
I'm more of a reactionary giver, where someone asks me for a donation that I know, then I'll give it. So I volunteered at the first Veritas Catholic Network pledge drive on the phones, and I was there, a part of it. And, I know they need the money. I know Steve. So I gave for the Rosary Club. That was a pretty good sized donation, which I don't typically do, but it was like more of a personal thing that drew me to it. And I have a friend who as a, like a bike rider. So every year there's a Sharon's Ride, I think it's called. It's for cancer. So he asks me, like he just texted me today, actually, Sharon's Ride. It's like, okay, another $20. My brother got to run the New York City Marathon because he volunteered at this organization in New York City called Keen. It's like for lower income children, giving them, I think, mentors and doing activities in sports. It's like, here you go. Here's some money for you for that. But I don't have like a strong connection to anything personal that I've been a part of. So that's why I say it's reactionary. Like when you say we're doing a social night of service, I'm like, okay, I'll go and buy sandwich stuff and come and show up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But I don't, I guess.
So nothing that's ongoing.
No,
kind of.
I'm trying to give more to the church weekly, but I often forget. So
I have it on the credit card now. Just every week, it just clicks my credit card, which is weird because then I think you're still supposed to put the envelope in the thing to show that like your attendance, right? Or no one really cares.
No, I just
Okay.
do people tie that though? Like when they link up their credit card to automatic giving, do people tie that to tithing? Do they call that or no?
Yeah, it is considered
Okay.
tithing,
Yeah,
but
Okay.
Yeah.
it does.
Money.
It feels different, I'm sure.
Because I
What,
feel
then,
like
what, writing a check? Or,
Well, you make a few clicks and then it's you're giving forever.
yeah.
Versus kind of making that choice every week to yes, I'm gonna do it. Yes, I'm gonna do it.
Oh, what's the difference?
So
Sorry,
a lot-
I'm a financial
there's
guy,
no-
so I look at I
there's
see the
not-
money
hey,
going out of the
look,
account.
I-
It's great.
well, a lot of
There
people
isn't a difference, I don't think, but I think psychologically,
Psychologically, maybe.
people.
I would say so. So I get annual bonus, right? Like a lot of people base in bonus, and so I have a month every year where I get a big chunk of change, and then I make my donate. I usually make my larger donations at that point. So I think people do it differently.
Yeah.
back to the tithing thing. When that first came out, right, where people could pay, weekly through their credit card, that was kind of like a big deal, wasn't it? Like people were not into that.
Yeah, it's still kind of a hard sell,
Yeah.
especially among some of our older parishioners who really like writing a check and.
Yep.
Right. But I guess the point is kind of so you don't forget to do it, right? And the church continually
I started
gets
doing
that
it with COVID.
donation.
Oh, with COVID, yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
because I wasn't there to give the money. So I was a cash guy because the church keeps track of it for me. So like I get a statement at the end of the year.
True.
It doesn't matter if I give cash or credit card or check. It's like I still get the statement, which my accountant, i.e. Dad, appreciates.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah, either way is fine, whether it's online giving or giving in person at Mass.
Right.
But I think it is important that we do give something because we receive something back in a powerful way. I mean, the fact that we have a church that's beautiful, that's clean, that has the lights that work. And now that I'm a pastor, I can tell you that things break down a lot more than I thought they would. Yeah. I've been at this parish 2 weeks, and already we've had to call the boiler guy twice. And it's,
in the summer.
in the summer, yeah.
So it is hot water, right? That's pretty much it right now.
No, it's a whole nother. I've learned more about boilers in the last 2 weeks than I ever wanted to know.
See,
But
now you know.
yeah,
Maybe
it's
some
leaking. Just leaking.
Oh, it's leaking. Oh,
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
Good thing the air conditioning isn't gone.
so far. I'm praying I don't have to call
Yeah.
that this summer.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I do think that it seems like the parishes do a good job when it's like, okay, we need to do this major project. I feel like people show up more. Like when St.
When it's
John.
clear, you know where it's going.
Exactly. And I think that's really important. So those statements that come out at the end of every year, whatever your fiscal year is, that show the income, the revenue and the expenses and whatever's at the bottom, I think it's powerful. I've seen that, like, I've tracked it, like my home parish in Cheshire, like over time. And you notice that when there is a deficit and they'll have like a look back, you'll see a deficit. And then the next year, the donations will go up.
Huh.
So it's like, okay, we ran a $20,000 deficit, which is usually like somebody just writes a check and fills it, right? But
Yeah.
but especially in an affluent area, but it actually does help to see the transparency.
Do you think the church does a good job of being transparent about where the money's going, or you could say no if you?
Parishes do an okay job. I think that.
They're probably not up to industry standards.
No, not even close. I would say it depends, though. I would say that if you want to go dig into, the 990 form, which is like the public filing of every not-for-profit, you can probably go on the Diocese of Bridgeport and go find their 990 and look at all the data you want to look at. I actually don't know if churches file 990s. I think they do. But So I think that there's some transparency there. I would say in general, the Catholic Church definitely has a bad rap, especially recently with some of the news about the financial situation of the church.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of money, but there's a lot of need for money.
Yes.
It's a paradox.
Yes, it is a paradox. And part of that, I can say maybe it's a man thing, but men like to see things that they've created, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we like to build with our hands. We like to see like, I made that. And as a priest, you don't get to do that a whole lot because you kind of sow seeds, but you're not really sure if people are actually going to be disciples or change their life. And so a lot of priests I've noticed like to build things and renovate things. Sometimes they don't need to be renovated.
Right.
You know, or not built as extravagantly as they are built. And I think that's part of why maybe people are a little kind of like raise their eyebrows when the church asks for more money, because they're like, well, what building project are we not going to need?
Mm-hmm. How do you like the way the Germans do it?
Oh, no, that's a terrible idea.
Okay, that's a good point.
So for those who are listening, how do the Germans do it?
So if you're a Catholic on record in Germany, you pay a tax. You have to opt out of it. You don't opt in. You opt out a tax as a Catholic, and it goes to the church.
Yeah.
So there tends to be a little bit of power, maybe you could say, with German dioceses.
And also, Germany will never preach a difficult message because they don't want people leaving the church.
Right, because then you opt out.
Right.
And then once you opt out, that money stops coming.
Right.
So it's good until it's not.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's a challenge I feel now as a pastor, is that, you know, I have to make sure that the people are happy enough to continue giving, but at the same time, I do have to preach the fullness of truth. And the fullness of the Catholic truth sometimes is very controversial, especially in today's world.
So how do you plan? Well, maybe that's a discussion for another day. I was going to say, how do you plan to balance that? Yeah. Or you've only been in that for 2 weeks, so
this is how I plan to balance that, because I've given it a lot of thought. I really have, because
Yeah.
I know it's something that a lot of pastors do struggle with. And I think that if you preach the truth and you're doing God's work, God will provide the money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's true at St. John's. It's a pretty...
Yeah, St. John's people, you know, the priests have always preached unvarnished truth.
Yeah. Well, Father Al Audet used to say, like, people come to our church because we do Catholic well.
Yes.
It's true.
Yeah.
People come from an hour away.
Because it's full test Catholicism. It's not watered down.
Right.
It's the full strength, you know. And that will draw some people and it will repel others. And you just let the chips fall where they may, because ultimately it's the souls, you know.
Right.
God will provide the money.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a diocesan young adult council with the bishop, and it's like, well, the bishop was saying on one thing, so we're on a Zoom call, and he says, well, we're going to need money to do that. Oh, it doesn't matter. Jesus will provide the money. We'll be fine.
Good.
Let's do it.
Good.
It's like,
He will.
And
Yeah,
it's
he
true.
absolutely will.
And then, you know, like we have all these foundations in faith, and we stand with Christ, and it's like, oh yeah, look at that. It's $10,000. Yay.
Heck, every time I say to the diocese, we need something else for our Restless show, they're like, here's $3,000. Thank you. We got new microphones. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. We sound good.
We do.
I will admit, though, you know, growing up and hearing like every year, let's say Bishop's annual appeal, or we're $20,000 short, like that's something I do remember. We're at this amount and we got to get to this amount. I always felt like, well, there's so many very wealthy people, you know,
Especially growing up in Greenwich.
yeah,
Yeah.
Greenwich, Connecticut. It's like someone could take care of that, no problem. Like I don't have to do anything about that. I mean, at that time I was a kid, so I wasn't giving anyway. And then they'd say, well, we used to get this donation that was, I don't know, let's say $25,000 a year, and we're not getting it this year. But it's like, you still know there are so many other people that can do that.
Yeah.
So it's this balance, I think.
Yeah, I think if it's the people that are in the position to be able to do that, they really need to believe in the cause.
Yeah.
And so I think that the bishop's annual appeal, to me, and maybe because I just haven't read all the material that's available online, it's not as transparent as like We Stand with Christ. Like We Stand with Christ, when we did that at St. John's, it was very clear. Like, we're raising $6 million. We already got this much money from leasing this property. We got this much money that we have to raise from you people, and we're going to get this much money from the rest of the diocese. And like, it was very clear. We're using it for the renovation of here, and we're building a prayer garden. We're doing this and we're doing that. And it's like, okay, good. Sign, done.
Yep.
Right. And it's just very easy. So I think, and so for those things, we were able, like St. John's was able to raise $6 million in like 3 months. I mean, it was crazy how fast we raised that money.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of people like, I'll match 100,000 for the next 100,000 that donates. It's like, okay. It's just, and it just came in. It's just incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. But
yeah.
To your point, I wonder if, and some people have told me this, that the wealthier communities tend to give less. And I don't know why, but Jesus gives that great story about those, the rich people who are walking to the temple, putting in their dribs and drabs, and then that poor widow comes in and she gives everything.
Yeah.
It may not be much in terms of money, but she's willing to give. And I'll tell you, when I worked for 3 years at the Hispanic parish in Stanford at St. Mary St. Benedict's, the people were not wealthy by any stretch, but they gave. And mostly they gave their time, and they would do anything for the church, building it, fixing it. A lot of them ran landscape companies, so they would fix up the lawn for free. And that was their tithe.
Right.
So do you think then that you can tithe in other ways other than money? Can you tithe with your time? Can you tithe with your talents?
I think tithing is very specifically monetary in nature, or like taking... Yeah, it's something that's monetary or can be quantified very monetarily. So if you buy a bunch of stuff and then donate the stuff, right? It's the same thing, just a unit of account. I don't know if time is like counts in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, I definitely think, volunteering, let's say, counts, right? As giving back to your community. Like I'm
For
not
sure.
someone
But tithing
that gives money to all these organizations, but I've definitely given a lot of time over the years, right? Restless for volunteering,
Yeah, true.
None of us take a salary.
A lot of time and commuting and gas. And why are we doing it? Well, we enjoy each other. And we know that it's something good, so it's a way that we're giving back.
Trying to build up the kingdom of God.
Yeah. So, and I do that with Ultimate a lot, doing clinics with kids,
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that's still worth something. But like you're saying, Paul, I think we are, kind of supposed to and called to give monetarily. So giving in a volunteer sort of way is not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree.
It's like it was the same thing with like fasting, right? Like, or making a Lenten sacrifice or Lenten fast. It's like I always say like, well, if you give up your time, it's like, well, make sure you're giving up your time doing something else, not like giving up your time doing nothing, right? Like,
Yeah,
because it's not really a sacrifice, right? So it's the same kind of thing. Like,
sure.
yeah,
And money for a lot of people is a big sacrifice. It's hard.
it is very hard.
Yeah.
Oh, and can you talk about how at Mass, right, we are also offering up like our donation, right? Like the collection happens and that is part of the sacrifice.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about how much time we spend each week on monetary things. You're working 40 hours a week plus the drive time. So you're talking, 50 hours a week. And so like really when you offer money, you're offering your life. You're saying these 50 hours that I spent trying to make this money, I'm now giving to God. So it's a really very powerful symbol, I think, of, giving at Mass to say, Lord, this is from my week. It's from that time that I spent trying to do what you've called me to do.
I think most people miss that message.
Yeah.
So it's important.
But so that brings me to the next question is, almsgiving and tithing should have a spiritual component. Like what benefit is it to us to give? Obviously it benefits the church and charities, but.
Well, is it detachment?
Sure.
Does that count? Right? Like being able to give something that you are putting so much time into, and it's a big part of our lives, right? And, for some people it's easier than others, right? If you're an accountant and these big financial guys, it's really not much. But when you're just starting out, when you're young, when you're at college, that's a big deal. I think a lot of people do want to hold on to their money. So being able to say, no, I don't need all of this. I can let it go. I can give it back to God. Does have a spiritual benefit because we are supposed to detach, right?
Right.
From these worldly things.
Right.
I will say that I struggle, like something I've always struggled with. I struggle with miserliness, right? I like, there's always a view of like in the Christmas Carol, the Mickey Mouse Christmas Carol, where Scrooge is like surrounded by coins. He just likes looking at his money. I struggle with that. Like I kind of have that instinct for whatever reason. And so it's really hard to write those checks. So it feels like a sacrifice.
Good.
I'm not very good at it, and I don't give enough probably. But I mean, you've probably looked at maybe my accountant.
I have no idea.
The St. John's system. I don't know, but
I have no idea.
But I'm trying to make a conscious effort to do more.
Well, Mother Teresa said, "Give until it hurts. Give until it hurts. Give until there's a pinch." Because we shouldn't give God just the leftovers, but really that first fruits of, wow, this is okay. Yes, Lord, because I love you. It's going to be a concrete way of showing that. Thanks so much for joining us in this episode of Restless. My challenge for you is to give. to give to your church, to find a good charity to give to, and don't be afraid to write that check. Not for worldly reasons, but so that you yourself may learn to rely on God and Him alone. You can find us on Veritas Catholic Network, which is accepting donations, 1350 a.m., and also wherever you get your podcasts. Take care and have a great week.